Hello one and all, and welcome along to the EuroFantasyLeague Podcast. This is your monthly update on all things Premier League, La Liga and Serie A. Now before we get started, I'm just going to ask you quickly, if you can do, to subscribe to the show, of course. We're on all the usual platforms: iTunes, Acast, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, YouTube, all the normal platforms. If you could subscribe and just take a minute to leave us a rating and review, that is absolutely massive if you wouldn't mind doing that. Just helps us get a little bit more visible to other people who are maybe looking for another football podcast to listen to. That would be lovely if it could be us. So if you don't mind taking a moment to do that, that would be much appreciated. I'm on my own in the studio at the moment. David Fennick will be joining us shortly, but to get us through the La Liga portion of today's episode, I'm going to be joined by a very special guest, so we'll be right back. Yes, as I say, welcome along to the EuroFantasyLeague Podcast, and it's the dawn of a new campaign. We've had the start of the Premier League already, La Liga and Serie A just around the corner. So Dave will be joining us shortly to help us out with Serie A and the Premier League. But first off, to help us get through the La Liga preview, I knew I was going to have trouble saying that, I'm joined by a man who really doesn't need too much in the way of introduction. He's a European football journalist, works for FC Barcelona and writes for Marquee in English, and as well as EuroFantasyLeague.com, of course. Welcome along to the show, Jason Pettigrove. Hello there, Jason. How are you doing, mate?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
Thank you for taking the time. It's very much appreciated. Now, obviously, Jason, I know you work for Barcelona, and you've got the La Liga season coming up. Must be a bit of a busy time for you at the moment, is it?
I think with any of us, whoever we work for, football, especially in a World Cup year, it's always a busy time. But yeah, start of the season, pre-season's virtually out of the way. Barcelona have got the Gamper Trophy on Wednesday against Boca Juniors, but then we're back to it with La Liga at the weekend, and off we go again.
Yeah, it's been a weird one, hasn't it, this year? There's not been too much of a gap between the start of the season and the end of the World Cup, has there? It's been quite nice for a football fan, I think.
Yeah, and I think as well, from the perspective of pre-season results, I know a lot of people don't hold too much stock in them anyway, but you sometimes get supporters that get a little bit excited if their team's done well. I think you can't really judge at this point, where a team's going to be at even in the first 2 or 3 weeks, because clearly some of the top teams, their players are only just top players, are only getting back to full fitness. Yeah. So I think maybe half a dozen games in, things will start to pan out as we probably would expect.
Start to shape up, yeah, because I was reading the other day about how some opening fixtures, especially as you say, with the World Cup having just finished, players not at full fitness, that can sometimes skew a good bit of the season, can't it? But do you think that's going to all balance out again by the time, say, the first few weeks are out of the way?
Yeah, I think it always does do, doesn't it, in most of the leagues? I mean, I think there will be a couple of surprising results, both in Spain, England, wherever there's been top players, and particularly if there's been a few players from the same team, until they get up to speed. If you've got teams that are hitting the ground running first 2 or 3 games, then we will definitely see a surprise or two. But I don't expect, once we're half a dozen, maybe 10 games in, I think we'll sort of be there or thereabouts. We'll know what's going to, we think we'll know what will then happen, say, for the next 10 games. And then obviously you've got the business end of the season, sort of February, March, April time.
Yeah, no, it's always a busy time for the team, especially when you've got further into trophies, Now, we've got, as we say, the opening weekend coming up. I know, as you say, it is quite early to say, make any massive predictions, but what do you expect from La Liga this season? Do you think Barcelona are going to get I suspect I might know the answer to that one, but do you think Barcelona are going to get the third in a row?
From a personal perspective, I'd like to think so, but I mean, you just don't know, do you? I mean, I actually think Real Madrid have been looking quite good without Ronaldo being there. I think the focus has very much changed to more of the team dynamic. I think when he was there, I think it was always, whoever's got the ball, right, let's look for Ronaldo. I guess in sort of much the same way as with Barcelona, if I sort of look for Messi, but I think Messi being a different type of player and can make things happen, whereas Ronaldo of nowadays is sort of very much a goal scorer, sort of getting on the end of things. I think Real will do well. They always do well. I think Atletico Madrid have had a fabulous summer transfer-wise, and I really think that they can finish at least second again, if not challenge for the title. And really, all across the league, there's some really good stories. We've got Huesca, who've just come up to La Liga for the first time ever. Yeah. Their first game's against Eibar. So the two smallest teams in the league, both have got grounds that hold less than 7,500. I think Huesca's has only got about 5,500.
Oh, wow.
If you put me on the spot now already, even before a ball's been kicked, I remember having a conversation with somebody about the same stage last season, and it kind of always seems to pan out in Spain much the same. You've got Barca, Atleti and Real Madrid, potentially Valencia, Villarreal, those sort of teams fighting it out up the top. Then there's always other teams like Sevilla, Celta Vigo maybe, potentially Athletic Club, if they get their act together, that are always sort of there or thereabouts for the European places. And then from there downwards, I mean, it can go anyway. We've seen teams that have had a little run towards the end of the season looking dead and buried and managed to save themselves. But I don't expect too many surprises towards the end of the season, to be honest.
Oh, well, no, that's fair enough. I mean, that's kind of what I was sort of expecting. I think Barcelona are looking in good shape. You got Ernesto Valverde in there as well, of course. They've done some pretty good transfer business in the summer. You're never going to look too far beyond someone like that. Which club would you have said has had the best transfer window? I know you were saying Atletico Madrid have had a particularly good one. Would you say theirs has been the best, or do you think maybe something else you alluded to a moment ago, losing Cristiano Ronaldo, could that work out as a bit of a blessing in disguise for Real?
Absolutely, with Real Madrid, I think it will be a blessing. It will allow people like Bale and Asensio particularly to shine. I think Benzema had such a poor season last season. Yes. I think we're going to see a different Benzema. So I think Ronaldo's transfer is the biggest sell financially, but I think club-wise, I think it's very good for Real Madrid. Who's had the best? I think I would have to go with Atleti. I mean, getting Thomas Lemar, I know 70 million euros, but absolutely stunning purchase, that one. Rodri, I think, will be an astute signing. He's come back. He used to be at the academy and he's come back to the club. I mean, there's good transfer stories all over. I think Levante actually selling Jefferson Lerma for 28 million euros is a really good coup for them, because that allows them to bring in some players with that type of money. Takashi Inui, William Carvalho going to Real Betis. I mean, even Barcelona grabbing Arturo Vidal for less than 20 million euros. Whatever you might think of Vidal the person, that's a steal for that sort of player.
On the pitch, it certainly is,
And getting Arthur as well, I think about 31 million euros, widely cast as the best midfielder that was playing in Brazil before Barcelona got him. So, I mean, Valencia, if they can get Goncalo Guedes, that potentially for them is a game changer. I know there's an offer there for him to PSG for 40 million euros. PSG wants 60 million. But they've signed Kevin Gamero just recently. Mm-hmm. They looked very, very good last season. They'll be back in the Champions League again. So, there's lots going on everywhere. And don't forget, of course, we've still got another, I think, a week, maybe even 10 days until the window closes in Spain or the rest of Europe. It's only in England that it's closed already. So there are still deals to be done.
Yeah, well, that was a nice link up, that, because one of my questions here, obviously, the likes of Real Madrid, they've already got Thibaut Courtois from Chelsea, but you would sort of surmise that kind of deal wouldn't have gone through had it been after the English window had closed. That's gonna, I mean, is that the Premier League leaving themselves wide open to getting pickpocketed, or is that going to give them a bit of extra leverage in negotiations? Do you think? Is it going to be harder for La Liga clubs to sign players, say from the Premier League, who they perhaps quite fancy bringing in, say Barcelona and Paul Pogba, for example? Is that going to make things harder?
I think it will. I mean, I don't have any inside info, and even if I did, I wouldn't be telling anybody.
I'm not fishing for inside info, no.
No, I think the only thing we do know is that Pogba clearly wants to leave. Mm-hmm. He had a meeting with Eric Abidal in Hollywood when he was out there on holiday, and Barcelona were there for their pre-season tour. Mm-hmm. Allegedly, he wants to come to Barcelona. I think it will happen. Whether it happens in this window or not, I'm not so sure. I don't think Barcelona would necessarily pay what United would want. And in fact, obviously they've said he's not for sale. Yeah. Unless Pogba comes out and says, I definitely want to go, then I think that one, maybe this time next year, will happen. Yeah. There's another one that's still in play at the moment, and that's Eden Hazard and Real Madrid. Real Madrid definitely want him. He wants to go. Chelsea want at least 200 million for him. and Real Madrid are, they're very, very reluctant to pay that sort of money.
Yeah.
So he's got a contract that lasts till 2020. So did Chelsea take the risk of leaving him there for another year, and then next year he says, do you know what, I'm going to run down my contract and I'm going to go for nothing? Or can they negotiate with Real Madrid? Will Real Madrid have their Galactico signing? We've not seen a Galactico for a little while with them, so they've got the money there. It's just, do they really want to pay that much when the markets, the inflation in the market since Neymar going to PSG has been absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
So look, there are deals to be done. Will they get done? I think only if the players concerned, and big players as well, not just, I hate to use the phrase journeymen, but when you're talking about big names like Pogba and Hazard, I think they've got to stick their neck out and say, I don't want to be here. And then that then gives the La Liga clubs the leverage that they need to go in hard and say, look, cash on the table, you don't want a player that doesn't want to play for you, let's do business.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, it's like I said, I just thought it was a bit of a strange one. I know we're talking about La Liga rather than the Premier League, but with the window shutting early, I get the theory, but it did leave us a little bit concerned that, you might be leaving yourself wide open. But yeah, you're right. It would more be a case of the player having to make the plea, I suppose, to move on. Now, Barcelona, again, not looking for inside info or anything like that, lost a few of their players to Everton in the summer. Having worked for Barcelona, what's your take on those departures? Did you see them sort of having big careers at the club, at the Camp Nou, or did you think they were quite good deals, really, in the end?
I think certainly, having seen the players at Barcelona, they have got good deals in terms of letting them go. I think your original point about if they were good deals perhaps in the first place, I think any player that comes to a club, the club sign them on the basis that they think they can do a job. Lucas Digne, for example, was perceived as Jordi Alba's understudy, but the idea of signing him in the first place was to put pressure on Alba and then ultimately dislodge him, I guess. That never happened. And I think, like a lot of players, when you see that you're at a club, albeit a big club, but you're not getting minutes on the pitch, the confidence sort of leaves you a bit. And then when you get chances, it's sort of here and there, and you never really find the form that you had that sort of encouraged the club to buy you in the first place. I think with Andre Gomez, if we remember when he signed for Barcelona, really he was signed from the clutches of Real Madrid. It was seen as a real coup for Barcelona to get him, 35 million euros, and he was seen very much as the future of Barcelona's midfield. And let's not forget, he also had Ballon d'Or clauses inserted in his contract, which seems kind of laughable now.
Yeah.
Not the right fit for Barcelona, really. I think for the Premier League, potentially a very, very good player. And his price will go up if he has a good season. So Barcelona, I think, are on a win-win whichever. Yerry Mina, that's one none of us can really understand in terms of why Barcelona signed him 6 months early. They weren't due to sign him until this summer. But then they had the option of signing him at a premium of about 3 million euros to bring him in January. That they did, kept him from the clutches of others. But it was sort of very obvious quite quickly that he wasn't the right fit either. I think he played, maybe 7 minutes here or there in a cup game, if I recall correctly, then played a full league game and then was left out for 3 months and didn't even get in many of the squads. So he wasn't even on the bench. So to then get 30 million euros for him because he scored 3 goals in the World Cup, it's astonishing business. But again, in the Premier League, he may be well suited to that. He's a physical player. He's a big player. He likes to get forward. So I can see it working out for both. Barcelona get the money for players that were never going to get back in the side as often as they wanted. Yeah. And if it works out well for the clubs that are buying them, well, then it's money well spent, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, I would certainly imagine. I mean, I saw Yerry Mina playing against England at the World Cup, for example, and he certainly seemed to be well up for that type of play, against those, because they were all Premier League players he was up against. And I would say he put in a very good performance. So I was just, a little bit surprised at that one. I wanted to get your take on it because, that's good. Well, Jason, thank you very, very much for your time. It's been absolutely fantastic, mate.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks. I hope to be on again soon.
Oh, definitely. We certainly hope so.
Thanks a lot.
Jason Pettigrove there, giving us his verdict on La Liga coming up. He's the author of Huddy, the official biography of Alan Hudson, which you can pick up on Amazon. We'll leave a link to that in the episode's description. Alan Hudson, what a wonderful player and servant at Chelsea as well. So that's well worth it, especially if you're a Chelsea fan. So what we're going to do now, we're going to head off for a quick break. And when we come back, hopefully we'll have Mr. Fenwick with us. And welcome back to the show. Now, we said just before the break there that I hope Dave was going to be in the studio. And guess who's here? It's David Fenwick. Hello, Dave.
How are you doing, Jamie?
I'm not bad. Are you okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a while, hasn't it?
I know it has. Now, without monthly episodes we're on now, it's been far too long, hasn't it?
Yeah, and a few people have said they're not happy with us going monthly, but I know it's beyond our control, but we still aim monthly, but I think one lad was even saying daily.
Yeah, I got a text message off one of our listeners saying he wished we were daily, so that's always nice to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So what we're going to do in this episode, Dave, because I know I've already spoken to Jason Pettigrove just a few minutes ago on the show, doing the La Liga bit. I know you've got something to add about La Liga as well, but before we get to that, I'm just going to quickly say we're not going to do the usual, like the weekend winners, the best 11,
no,
because there's only the Premier League started so far, so it would just be entirely Premier League. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a few minutes to preview Serie A, and then we're going to talk about the Premier League, kind of preview, but we've already had a week's action, so we're going to see what we think. But as I say, we're right off the back of chatting to Jason about La Liga. So what have you got for La Liga? I know you had something you wanted to say.
Well, I just thought Courtois made a right so-and-so of himself when he signed for Real Madrid, you know. Right. A bit over the top, I thought, kissing his badge at the press unveiling. And he's upset Chelsea fans by manufacturing this move, and he's also annoyed the Atletico Madrid fans as well. They're sort of Real Madrid's arch rivals, and he spent 3 years on loan at Atletico.
Yes, and
he helped them win the Europa League, the Copa del Rey, and the La Liga title, you know. And the fans have vandalised a plaque outside Atletico's new stadium, which sort of listed Courtois' achievements for Atletico, and they sprayed Rata, which is Spanish for rat, on the plaque and poured beer all over it, you know. So right. I think, you know, sign for Real Madrid, but come on, don't start kissing the badge when you've just signed, you know. And
I think he's done that to try and endear himself to the fans without really thinking it through.
People can see through that, and Courtois could make his debut this Wednesday, and who do Real take on? Atletico in the UEFA Super Cup final in Estonia. So that could be a little bit spicy.
Yeah, well, it's always going to be. I mean, wonderful games between the two of them. I mean, we've had two All-Madrid Champions League finals in the last sort of 3 or 4 years off the top of my head. It's always a spicy one, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm hearing Neymar's getting linked to Real Madrid as well.
Yeah, there's been links with him going to Real Madrid all summer, but I think there's been some really awesome reports, like how he's apparently told PSG that he's happy to stay as long as they treat him like the star. And I'm not sure, I mean, I quite believe he appreciates his own value. But and I'm not his biggest fan, as I've said before, but I think some of the reports have gone a little bit overboard, to be honest with you.
And La Liga starts this weekend. Premiership started last weekend. La Liga starts this weekend. Serie A starts this weekend. But what I'm amazed with is the different transfer windows. So in La Liga, you've got till Friday, August the 31st. In Serie A, you've got till August the 17th. That's before the season starts this weekend, but La Liga goes all the way through to Friday, August the 31st. So really, does it leave some clubs a bit at threat of getting the players taken from La Liga clubs?
Well, I mean, funnily enough, I was having a brief chat with Jason about this as well. I know you haven't heard the chat yet, but I actually wrote an article on that last week for EuroFantasyLeague.com saying how it's a bit bizarre. I get the sort of thinking behind get all the transfer business done before the league kicks off. I do get that, because we've seen it before, players having a sulk, not playing, and a club ends up paying their wages through till January without them kicking a ball for them. So I get all of that, or they might have like 2 minutes to sign a replacement, all of that stuff. But I do think it leaves Premier League clubs a little bit wide open to be picked.
That's what I was thinking. You know, if you sort of set your team out or something, and these so-called stars or whoever, somebody from La Liga could come and handpick them, couldn't he?
They could, but I would also argue that the asking price can the powers with the Premier League clubs then, because they can say no, we can't sign a replacement. You want them for like 50 million. You want to stick another 50 million on that before we'll even think about it.
They'll cover themselves, won't they?
Because even at this stage, the players aren't really in the position of power now. I mean, they still can throw the strop and all that the same way they could before, but if the club doesn't want them to go, they're not going anywhere. Whereas when clubs could sign replacements, it was maybe a little bit more in favour of the player.
Yeah. Anyway, La Liga starts this weekend. We'll not go through all the fixtures, but I think the pick-out one is Valencia v Atletico Madrid. Valencia did very well last year, and Atletico will be looking to do well this year. So, it's. I think that's the pick of La Liga this weekend.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was. Jason was just saying before, actually, a beautiful little stat here with La Liga, one of the newest clubs in La Liga. They only just got promoted. Huesca. They're away at Eibar, and Huesca have only got a stand that has a capacity of less than 7,500. I believe it's their first time in La Liga, so that's quite
very
nice. That could be quite a nice. It's at Eibar, that match, rather than Huesca.
All right, I see.
Yeah, I think that.
So
that
they'll
could
probably
be good
play
to
the
see
first
how
home
they get
game
on.
the week after.
I would imagine so. Yes, they certainly will.
So that's La Liga covered. So Serie A starts this weekend, and Ronaldo already telling the hierarchy at Juve which players to sign. He's told them he wants Lazio star Sergej
Milinkovic-Savic. Yeah.
Yeah,
so he's a good player.
Ronaldo, that hasn't taken him a while to settle into the dressing room, has it, if he's coming out with stuff like that?
Yeah, I know, but it's brand though, isn't it? It's all brand Ronaldo, and he's always going to have some degree of power, no matter how long he's been at a club. But I mean, Milinkovic-Savic is a really good player. He was one of the better players in Serie A last season. Got linked with moves to the Premier League. Man United particularly credited with interest in him. And I think it could be a big season for him.
Yeah, I can't see past Juve to win the 8th title in a row, you know. They've lost Buffon, but Cellini is the new captain, and he knows all what Juve is about. He's been there since 2005, you know, so knows the club inside out. And I can see it being tighter than last year, that's granted, but I think it'll be Juve, Napoli, then Inter. But I still think Juve will win it, but I think it'll be tighter. And I think Juve are desperate to win the Champions League, aren't they?
Yeah, well, of course they are. I think the signing of Ronaldo was testament to that, really. It's wanting to dominate in Europe because, as you say, they've won the Serie A title for just years in a row now. I think
if they win it this year, it'll be the 8th in a row.
Yeah. No, I think Inter could be a little bit more of a threat than they have been if they can sign Luka Modric from Real Madrid. Now, I know the latest reports are that Modric is likely to sign a contract extension and remain with Real Madrid. Well, that's one of the reports that's out at the time of recording. But he is apparently quite keen to make the move. And I think if Inter can get that deal done somehow, I mean, the figures involved are ridiculous. You know, they're in excess of 600 million. But if they can get that, you know, that deal over the line somehow, I think Inter could be a real threat in Serie A this season.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to put you on the spot here. And who do you think Italy's top scorer will be this season? I've got sort of Higuain, Dries Mertens, Icardi, Milic, or Immobile.
Well, yeah, I'm never going to bet against...
Who do you think out of all them?
I'm never going to bet against Immobile. You know that.
Right. You like him, don't you?
I do. I like Immobile. I think between him and Mertens, they're two players I'm a big fan of. I think Higuain is always going to be a threat as well, regardless of where he's playing. He's at AC Milan now, and made a little bit of a gaffe when he arrived. Did you see the photo?
I didn't.
He's wearing the AC Milan tracksuit top, and he pointed at the badge, but he pointed to the wrong side. So people put the quotes on saying that's his first miss of the season. Right.
Yeah, not the brightest then, eh? But Ronaldo, I mean, I think you touched on it. Last year I don't think his goal-scoring form in the league is as good sort of as in the Champions League, is it? So Juve will be hoping he carries that on in the Champions League with them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, obviously it's the brand that they've bought, like I say, but it's certainly with an eye to getting some of his European action.
Absolutely desperate to win the Champions League.
Yeah, they are. It's been a while in coming, that has.
Yep, so that's Serie A covered. I mean, again, we'll not go through all the fixtures this weekend, but Lazio Napoli sounds pretty spicy, and Torino versus Roma, and our friends at Spal go to Bologna.
Bologna, I'm going to watch that one if I can. Bologna and Spal. That's on me radar for viewing this weekend.
Okay.
So, yes, like I say, we've had a quick look over at Serie A and La Liga we've already covered. So we're going to go for a quick break now, I think, Dave. And when we come back, we'll have a little look at how the opening weekend of the Premier League went, see how some of the new boys did, and have a look at what's to come up. So we'll be right back. And welcome back to the EuroFantasyLeague podcast, where we're now going to give it a little bit of Premier League chat, Dave. So did you enjoy it now that the Premier League's back in action?
I did really, but I've got my thoughts on this first week of the season.
Right.
And if you went through all the games, I think you would have predicted more right than wrong. You know, You had Man United beating Leicester, Bournemouth beating Cardiff. The only one that I thought might not have gone the way everyone thought, Palace won at Fulham 2-0. But then you had Chelsea beating Huddersfield, you had Tottenham winning at Newcastle, Watford beat Brighton, Wolves and Everton was a draw, Man City won at Arsenal, Liverpool thumped West Ham, and Southampton and Burnley was a 0-0 ball draw. And if you could have predicted them, I think if me and you had predicted them before, I think we would have got possibly 8 or 9 out of them 10.
Yeah, I was going to say the one that I was quite impressed with, I think that I may not have gone for in advance that really stands out was Wolves and Everton. Now, I don't actually know which way I would have gone. I would have maybe thought Everton, but Wolves have done some wonderful business, haven't they?
They have, and I don't want to say sort of after the event, but I probably would have chose that for a draw, Wolves and Everton. Wolves at home for the first game back in the Premiership, and Everton I probably would have picked a draw for that, you know. So I think a lot of these fixtures went according to plan, and I don't think that's good news for the Premier League.
No, maybe not. I mean, it is the opening day, and of course, I mean, Arsenal-Man City was always going to be the biggest game of that first weekend, you could argue.
Yeah.
But then again, you wouldn't really have expected Arsenal, this sounds disrespectful to Arsenal and I don't want it to, but against a Man City team that's just won the Community Shield quite happily the week before, it kind of went the way you'd expect, despite having the unknown factor in Unai Emery in charge now as well. Do you think he's been going to prove to be a good appointment for them?
I mean, only time will tell, but I cannot see past Man City. Man City will win the league, and think Liverpool could finish second, you know. Yeah. But you can't say past Man City. I think they'll win it for years to come. For years to come,
you think they're going to do a Juventus or a Celtic?
I really think they are.
Yeah. Oh well, there we go. I don't know. I quite like. I think City will win it this year. Absolutely, I do. Unless somebody comes out with something to really make people pay attention, I think City will probably win it again this year. But I don't know, Chelsea under Maurizio Sarri, I think that could be quite a good fit. I know Sarri hasn't won much. In fact, I don't think he's won any trophies, has he, as a manager? But the style of play he likes, Chelsea have got the staff there to really blend in with that. And I think they could be quite entertaining this season.
Yeah, I mean, they can't be any more dour than last year under the leadership of a fellow who clearly didn't want to be there. But I tell you what, Crystal Palace at Fulham, you know, there was a lot of hype going on about Fulham, and Crystal Palace went there and won 2-0, and that's a major coup for them, holding on to Wilfried Zaha.
Yes, absolutely it is. Yeah.
Unless he goes to La Liga.
Or Serie A, if it happens in the next couple of days. But I think that was a really good bit of business, actually. Same too with Leicester and Harry Maguire. I think keeping Maguire there and having him alongside the likes of Johnny Evans in the central defence could be brilliant for Leicester. That's really not a bad defence, that.
No, Johnny Evans, I mean, he's well experienced now, isn't he? You know, so
yeah. Well, it
is a good sign for them, you know. I worry down the other end of the table, relegation spots. I worry for Huddersfield and Cardiff, definitely gone.
Right, okay. You're calling
I don't know who'll fill the other spot, but I think Huddersfield and Cardiff will fill two of them spots.
Oh, okay then. I can I would agree with Cardiff. I think I can see just because a lot of they haven't really seemed to tackle the promotion with massive ambition. I'm sure they want to stay in the Premier League, of course. Why else would you want to be there? But the signings haven't quite
materialised.
Yeah, but I mean, Fulham spent £100 million on new players. Wolves have, I haven't got the figures that Wolves have spent, but they've brought in some class players.
Spent a lot of money.
I mean, you've also got the likes of Burnley, who at one stage would have been strugglers. They qualified for Europe last season, but they've now got 3 of England's 4 goalkeepers in the ranks.
Yeah, I think Burnley will be all right. But as I say, I think it's Huddersfield, Cardiff, and one other down the bottom.
Huddersfield, Cardiff. Well, as we speak at the moment, West Ham are rock bottom, obviously, after that 4-0 loss at Liverpool. So, what I do like...
Convincing from Liverpool there.
It was. What I do like...
Didn't take long for our friend to get on the score sheet, did it?
No, 19 minutes, I think it was.
Something like that,
the table at the moment, at the time of recording, Liverpool top, Chelsea second, Bournemouth third, Crystal Palace 4th, Man City 5th. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the Premier League covered, and it's been nice talking to you again, mate. It's been too long.
Thank you for coming back. It's it's been good. And as I say, we will be back again in a month or so. We'll confirm the actual date on Twitter once we've got it finalised.
By then, all the leagues will have settled down.
It'll start taking shape. I mean, I say, Arsenal have got another tough one coming up. Chelsea.
Yeah, they go to Chelsea, and I think Liverpool will go to Palace next Monday.
Yes, on Monday, that's right. Yeah, that's another good one that it should be good. Roy Hodgson going up against his old club.
Yeah, so we don't want to bore people with going through all the fixtures, but there you go. Premiership covered, La Liga covered, Serie A covered, and it's nice to be back.
I totally agree. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Glad that the season's underway again. And we just hope that Arsenal's manager, who's got a very similar name to their stadium, can be almost as successful as the manager they had with the same name as the club. So there you go, because Unai Emery at the Emirates.
All right,
so,
there you go. I've been doing your homework. You've been waiting to say that all summer, haven't you?
I actually put it out there on Twitter and I got no attention for it whatsoever. But yeah.
All right, sorry, mate.
No, that's fine. No, I wasn't meaning you particularly. I mean anybody, Dave.
Right.
So there we go.
Not even the landlady.
Oh, the landlady's back as well. Here we go. Good stuff.
Yeah,
I think she's in the folklore now, isn't she?
She is.
So yes, if you have enjoyed the episode, please remember to leave us a rating and review on your chosen podcasting platform and play the game, of course, EuroFantasyLeague.com, and we've got the sister sites as well, fantasy-premier.com, Serie A-fantasy.com, Liga-fantasy.com, lots of league-specific games as well. If you go to the main page, EuroFantasyLeague.com, there's lots of different flags and banners. Just click that, you get the league-specific game. And you can find us at EuroFantasyPod on Twitter, and we've got Jason Pettigrove at Jason Pettigrove, and Dave, you're a very similar way of thinking. I think you are. You're at Davy Fennick. You know all the usual spiel. You know it all. So if you just give us a rating and review, we'll be happy. And do remember as well to check out Amazon. The link's in the description for Jason Pettigrove's book Huddy, the official biography of Alan Hudson, a Chelsea legend. So remember to check that out and pick yourself up a copy of that as well. So until next time, Dave, it's been lovely talking to you.
Always a pleasure.
We'll speak to you again next month.